Haha, and we're live straight away because I forgot to press my other fancy button. I forgot to press my countdown button, but never mind. Never mind, never mind, never mind. Anyway, yes, greetings and good evening to everyone. Once again for the good well, not for the good morning walk, for the Wednesday night live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Like I say, it feels a bit since we've done one. But things have just happened. I've obviously tried to sort of make up for not having one. As best as I could. But I think, like I say, I think tonight we've got some good stuff. I think to really discuss and talk about. We're going to be looking at the US midterm elections, what that could mean. Certainly for not only politics going forward in America, but what it could mean for potentially politics going forward for in the UK as well. We've got the continuing collapse of the Tory party to cover, and certainly at the moment. And I'll tell you what, Gavin Williamson's departure is going to cause a lot of problems for Rishi Sunak. If you've seen my video just earlier today about it, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And then more problems, unfortunately, in Northern Ireland. But there is some progress, but even that progress is going to be undermined by, surprise, surprise, the DUP. So, without a doubt, like I say, good evening, good evening, good evening. So, like I say, do say hello in chat because I know Conservators in the chat at the moment. So, Conservator, good evening to you. Dr. Oz lost, good. To be honest, he really doesn't deserve to win. He really doesn't deserve to win. He's one of these people who are like, "Why on earth are you running? What's going on? Why are you running?" So, yeah, I'm at least glad that he lost. But Cathlo G, good evening to you. But as you can see, the Senate race has been incredibly close. The Senate is knife edge, and I think all the results are in now, so I don't think anyone else is sort of waiting to report or anything like that. But that is so far the current Senate, and it is exactly on a knife edge. Oh, Bad Books, good evening to you. Ben Jerome, good evening. Andrew Wilkes, good evening to you. But yeah, the Senate knife edge. It does seem, from what we can see here, that the Republicans have just nailed the House, but only roughly. It's a red wave. I don't think so. I don't think so. Hasn't been a red wave at all. A red wave would mean the Republicans would fully control both the House and the Senate, and they have seemed to have failed to do that. What it seems to have been, and at least what a lot of other reporters who have been following this have said, that it has been apparently Dems have turned out in the midterms in enough numbers not to win seats, but enough to push back. And that is what has apparently happened. It is apparently because of all the things like abortion, a couple of other things that are like going on in America, especially with voting rights. Certainly seems to me that the sort of the wanting sort of to keep this that sort of the Dems have sort of pushed back. It really does seem that way, that they have pushed back against this. And if they've pushed back against this, then what does this mean for sort of politics going forward? Well, from what we can certainly see, certainly, definitely, will Trump run in the future? A lot of people were saying, depending on how the Republicans do in this Senate, in the Senate and the House elections, would entirely depend on whether he ran or not. So that has really been the overall mood, certainly in America. And you come back over to the UK, where obviously we've just had Boris Johnson, who from all intents and purposes, could have won. I think if Johnson had seriously won, we had, um, you know, the leader of the 1922 committee coming out and saying, yes, Boris did actually have the numbers to run to take it to the membership. But if he had gone to the membership and won, his party would again be completely against him. And then, of course, you've got the new rumors that came out very recently that if he had run and he had lost, he might have missed out or at least diminished his earning potentials by at least about 10 grand. So that is quite significant for Boris, certainly on that reflections. But what does this sort of take away? I think what Labour needs to be paying attention to, certainly in this election, is one thing that Biden did, although a lot of people are saying he did it far too late, was he did a big swing towards doing a lot of stuff about the populist stuff. So if Starmer needs to take a lesson away from this election, is he needs to swing towards certainly being populist. And as Ed Miliband has pointed out time after time after time, you need to be really brave about what policies you're going to put forward. And I think going forward, Starmer needs to be seriously more brave about how he operates, how he puts sort of the Labour forward, and certainly how he tells the story and how he crafts the story around certainly what the UK really is going to be from then on with them in charge. Oh, 91 Leeds, good evening to you. David, hello to you. And Tilly the Coder, hello to you. How weakened is Sunak now from losing one cabinet minister in 3 weeks, with Braverman still causing constant chaos? We'll be getting on to that. In fact, we might get on to that straight away, I think. Because, like I say, the big thing about the US elections, you had what was expecting to be a big red wave, and that has not happened. This red wave that everyone was predicting has not happened. It's clearly not happened. But it hasn't happened. It's still very, very much. You've got a couple of the governor races as well that have gone on as well. But other than that, there wasn't this red wave. It sort of really hasn't happened. And I think that is a good thing in the long run, because it certainly shows that the absolutely insanity that the Republicans have been giving into certainly hasn't been the way and direction to go, giving into constant election denials. I don't know if there have been any Republicans calling out for like, oh, that this election was rigged. I wouldn't be surprised though. Hang on, let's check. 'Cause it wouldn't surprise me if there are a couple of Republicans saying I only lost because of this. Not really. No one's come out and said who won. No one's come out and against and said anything like that. Although I wouldn't be surprised if that maybe is an uptake, maybe in the morning. But yeah, that'll be quite funny if that indeed happens. But yeah, oh my. But yeah, on to Tilly's question. From the US elections over to certainly to the state of our current Conservative Party, because oh my, Oh my, oh my, oh my. Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Certainly for certainly for certainly what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. Because as you know, Gavin Williamson resigned very much yesterday, and this is going to be a problem for Sunak because if you go and you talk to conservatives, first of all, Williamson is not liked. He is not very popular. But why has Williamson, if he is not popular, why has he been served in not only under Cameron, he served under May, he served under Johnson, he even served, of course, under Sunak. So he served under a numerous number of administrations here in Parliament. So if he's so unpopular, why did Sunak put him in? Well, there's one thing. There is one thing that Gavin Williamson is absolutely good at, and that is he is really, really good at politicking. He knows the Tory party inside out. He knows what they want. He knows what troubles are going on in their local constituency. He has this incredible encyclopedic knowledge. So for leaders like Cameron, May, Johnson, what he's done is he has provided the service of, well, so and so isn't voting for your bill. Why is he not? Tell you what, we'll send round Gavin. We'll send round Williamson. We'll find out what's going on. Or Williamson would come into the office and can basically go, well, I can tell you why this person isn't going to support this particular bill because they've got this going on in their constituency, this going on in their constituency, and this. He had an insane knowledge that almost no one else in his party has. And that was in, obviously, Rishi Sunak's government. And the fact that he has now lost that person, he has lost that knowledge, is going to be a big blow to Sunak. A really big blow to Sunak. And we've said it, I don't know how many times on this channel. Rishi Sunak's government is, a house of cards built on quicksand on an earthquake fault line. It could go any second, and all it's going to take is really one serious tremor. And we've got a couple of tremors coming down the line. You've got the budget. The budget's going to be a big one because there could be a ton of stuff in that budget that he either has to cut, for example, like the pension triple lock. That's certainly a big one. A lot of line in the sand that a lot of Tories are pointing out. That could be a big fight for him. And you haven't got Williamson now to send out to go and have a look in the, that knowledge to use from. So there's a lot of, he's in a lot of trouble. And of course, you've got the Brexit problems. His stance has certainly softened towards the EU. That's why negotiations with Ireland over the Northern Ireland Protocol currently are going so well. Even the EU has come out and said, yeah, we're hoping for better relations with Sunak's government. Do you think the Brexiteers are going to be pleased? Then you've got Jacob Rees-Mogg's bill, the EU Reform and Revocation Bill. If that dies, that is a lot of Brexiteers' last hopes that they are hoping for Brexit. And I don't know if you saw this morning, there was Jacob Rees-Mogg's 2,400 laws initially in that bill. There's now been an even deeper looking by, I think it was a group of lawyers who found another 1,400 EU laws that also would fall under this bill, but aren't even included in this particular bill. So altogether, you're looking at close to about 4,000 different laws and regulations that could just be turned off overnight because of that bill. And we've seen even Brexiteers don't like this bill. So this is going to be a big dividing line. This is going to be a big fault line. And it's not just that. There could be other stuff that just, pops up out the ground that all of a sudden goes, hello, Mr. Sunak, I'm here to cause chaos in your government, You don't know when it could all go. But it honestly, British politics at the moment is so, it's so crazy and so volatile. Anything could happen any moment. And it's at least been nice to have a couple of weeks where things have been normal and quiet since Liz Truss. But yeah, oh my. Rich sees, good morning, good evening, good morning, good evening to you. Vinny, good evening to you. Number 3, good evening to you. Colo8, good evening to you as well. Sue K, Stu K, sorry, good evening to you. Have I missed anyone out? I don't know. Like I say hello in the chat. 1 second. But yeah, things I think are going to get very interesting, I think, very soon, because Sunak is the leader of the Conservative Party, and you cannot have a leader who does nothing. Doing nothing, especially at this time, we've got all these problems going on. We've got crisis after crisis after crisis, and Sunak has effectively done nothing so far since he's come in. He's been focused on the budget. But how are Conservatives going to react to the budget? That's still, the jury's still out on that. The jury's still out on that. Past news, good evening to you. And Bakura, hello to you as well. So, yeah, things are getting very, very interesting. But, Colin Thompson, greetings from New York. Still counting. Past news, you're betting on Williamson, Braverman, and Sunak before Christmas. I don't know, but given what's happening in British politics recently, anything could happen, to be honest. Anything could happen. And I think you've just got to give the Tory party an excuse. You've just got to give them, the Tory party, enough of an excuse to rebel, and they'll go for it. They are not governable in the slightest. And the only thing that's going to make them calm down and, fall into line is a general election. Like, a general election is Rishi Sunak's only hope. If they start getting out of line, it's a general election. And sometimes that threat alone might be enough, maybe, to keep some of the Tories in check, because not all of them are going to re-win their seats. As I'll tell you this now, Sunak and his policies, his really deep right, hard policies, are not going to fly in the red wall. None of those are going to fly in the red wall. Oh, Duke Vengeance, hello to you. Number 3, yeah. Yep, the Tories are collapsing in a heap and taking the country with them. Yep, very true. Very true. Yeah, Truss just wanted to deliver British British cheese pork markets in Beijing and British apples and pears. That's all she wanted to deliver. She did it. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. But yeah, this is this is what's being noticed now, even more since Sunak has gone. Um, you know, the Tories are ungovernable, and Rishi Sunak won't bring them to heel. He's right. They're not. They're not at all. There is something accidental about Rishi Sunak. Partly, it is the route that he took to Downing Street, taking over from someone who had recently beat him in a race to the top. It was it was unceremonious, like an athlete collecting the gold medal after the winner fails a drug test. He's in trouble. There are a lot of Tories still out there, saying that his win doesn't count. Why should I follow him? Why should I follow Rishi Sunak? And it's not hard to see why. Because he lost. And yeah, he won this contest, but he won the contest because the guy who everyone thought was going to stand against him didn't stand against him. So, yeah. Oh, Ruth, good evening to you. But yeah, this is it. And even a lot of Tory members, there's actually been a lot of people resigning from, handing in their Conservative cards, leaving the Conservative Party because of this election. They haven't liked how it's gone. They feel that it should have gone to the membership. Even if it was just Rishi Sunak, they felt it should have just gone to the membership. There's a lot of people still not happy about how that election went. The more it happens, the less control Sunak has. But the malaise goes deeper, to the absence of purpose beyond clearing up the mess made by previous Tory governments. And that's true. Every Tory government has just made a bigger and bigger mess. If Sunak had a vision of what to achieve as Prime Minister, its fulfillment lies across a very slurry pit filled with his predecessor's mistakes. Even if he crosses with the rare panache, he will stink before even reaching the other side. The state of public finances, made by a very precarious by Liz Truss's harebrained experiments in fiscal alchemy, is only the first problem. All the proposed remedies, any configuration of spending cuts, tax rises, come with nasty side effects. Austerity threatens to further depress the demand in a shrinking economy. There will be discontent this winter. And oh boy, is there going to be discontent this winter. We've got the nurses. I believe they have come in. I think their vote is tomorrow. I think the numbers for that comes in, or it might be even this weekend, I think, when the final numbers for that comes in. So you've got nurses going on strike. You've got, I think, college teachers are going on strike. Maybe even university teachers, I think that extends to. There's a lot of people this winter going on strike. We are really going to have a real big number of people striking in this winter. And a lot of people have said we haven't seen this before for quite some time. Oh, Phil, good evening to you, Phil. Phil McCracken. Starmer basically lost any hope in Scotland. Tories will be all but wiped out, but the lost votes won't be going to Labour now. Too many foreigners in the NHS is not a winning slogan. It's not the case of that. I think the whole thing about immigration was tied to Brexit. I think that's why, even though the Tories tried, certainly under Braverman, to try and restore that rhetoric, failed very recently. Because it was all tied to Brexit. oh, we've got Brexit done now. We don't have to deal with, immigration anymore. But you don't have people like Nigel Farage as well and UKIP running around screaming about immigration 24/7 now. That's had a big effect. Like, that has had a massive effect. The fact that Nigel Farage's popularity has dropped off the face of the earth. It's happened, that's really the case. You know, well, I don't see how you can sort of put it anywhere closer than that, really. But yeah, they've completely lost it. I think they're a party that has really officially run out of steam. I think that's the best way you can describe our current Tory party. They've lost any steam whatsoever. Oh, Chris, good evening to you. Starmer saying the Scots democracy is not his priority. Yeah, Scottish democracy is not his priority. His priority should be the UK democracy. That is his priority. And I've said this before to everyone on the left. We cannot make changes if we are not in power. Like, the left can do nothing if it is not in power. And the only way you get in power, unfortunately, and there's a lot of people who are going to have to suck it up at the next general election, you're going to have to vote Labour or Lib Dem. And considering, as you've said it in your chat there, Chris, both the Tories, red, blue, what's the difference? You could vote Liberal Democrat and get essentially the real light version of the Tories, because that's who they are. It sort of shocks me that people go, well, maybe I won't vote for Labour, but I might vote for Liberal Democrats because, I like what they've got to say, but I don't like, the Tory Labour, the what is it, the light Tory that Starmer is trying to sell. Oh, hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. That's what the Lib Dems do. The Lib Dems have done that for years. And yet people don't have a problem with what they've been selling. And here's the thing. Starmer and Labour have got a ton of good policies. A ton of good policies. Like, it's not the full nationalisation of the energy, that the left wants, but you're getting one energy company that's going to be nationalised, that's going to be focused in creating green energy, and it's going to be nationalised. It's going to be government run. What have I said when it comes to privatization? Every single time when it comes to privatization, you look at the numbers. If you just poll privatization by itself, you've got at least different numbers, because nationalization by itself is a bit of a it's a bit of a swinger. It's 50-50 up and down constantly. But what happens when you start saying, well, do you want to nationalize the rail? Do you want to nationalize water? Do you want to nationalize power? That's where you start to see different numbers. So water is a classic example of lots of people certainly changing their minds back and forth. Because before last summer, if you polled people, and you can look at the polls, if you have a look at the polls, it says in the polls that only around, I think, 36% of people want to nationalize water. Now, fast forward to last summer, where we're getting all those sewage spillages out into sea, even recently down in Cornwall just a few weeks ago. Those numbers have now shot up to above 60%. Nationalizing rail. The worse the rail strikes have become, and the worse people have seen the services on rails, the more that's become more popular. You've got Andy Burnham leading the charge for local Labour authorities to sort of localize bus services and to bring bus services back under local council control. Manchester is going to be the first place to do that. That's fantastic. You've got Dan Jarvis, the former mayor, former mayor now, because obviously he retired after the last, he stepped down before the next election. He set up a socialized startup function by the local South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. So if you want to run a cooperatively owned business and set one up, or even transition a business that you own to a cooperative model, that exists. It's one of the only types of its functions in the country that's local government led. So this idea that Tories are just light version of the Labour is just Tory light. Are the Tories going to relocalize your bus services, bring them back into local ownership? Are the Tories, is Ben Houghton, the regional mayor of the Northeast, is he going to set up a cooperative business startups chamber so that people can start up cooperative businesses? I don't think so. So this whole thing of where people go, Labour is just Tory light. I'm sorry, you don't know what the Labour Party are putting forward and are proposing. I'm sorry, you don't. I think the Labour Party can be a lot better than it is doing. I don't fully agree with everything that they do. I think they can go a lot further on some of these proposals. I think the energy plan, while I like it, I'd love it to go further. I'd love to see it nationalize more energy companies. I really would love to see them go that. For example, Doncaster Sheffield Airport or Doncaster Airport. I would love to see that be brought under local ownership. I think that would help to save it. I really think it would. Anyway, back to the chat. A second. Where's Chris Day? Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to sort through all the chat. Sorry, there we go. But yes, good evening, by the way. If you have joined us, by the way, good evening. Here we are. They are Tory light. The better of two evils doesn't mean less evil equals good. Depends what policy they're doing. I think if you cast a party as just, it's the lesser of two evils, well, what do you actually mean by that? Because it comes down to policy. If you have a party that is putting out good policy that is going to make effective change, is it the lesser of two evils? I've just said about how good Labour are doing locally with stuff that Andy Burnham and Dan Jarvis did during their tenures, during his tenure as South Yorkshire regional mayor, and Andy Burnham is doing during his time. He's doing fantastic. You know, I don't see those ideas being pushed anywhere else. Ah, I see. So you're basically making the case SMP. Well, should we look into the SMP policy proposals? I mean, Nicola Sturgeon at the moment has got a big problem on her hands with that transgender bill. I know that. I know that's certainly causing a lot of splits in her own party. I know that they had a big problem when Edinburgh, who, bear in mind, funded their funding comes from the Scottish government, saying, "Hey, look, we want to pay our bin men more, but the Scottish government aren't boning up the cash." That was the SNP's fault. You know, Scottish government, we've got no strikes on our rails. We've got no strikes on our rails. Oh, Scottish Rail's gone on strike. Whoops. Don't say the grass is greener on the other side because it might sound greener, but it never really looks that too green when you look at it properly. And hey, I've said it before. If I was Scottish, I wouldn't be voting SNP. I would not be voting SNP because it doesn't stop the problem, and that is you've got to get the Tories out. A vote for the SNP at the general election is a wasted vote. I'm sorry, but it is because the SNP does not get the Tories out of power. It's going to be a coalition either between the Labour and the Lib Dems, or it's going to be a full Labour vote. Because I'm misinformed on Scotland. Well, hey, I've always said if you want to inform me, send me articles, send me stuff like that. I'm more than happy to take a look at the stuff. I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy, but you know, what I care about is policy. And at the end of the day, that is really what trumps everything. It's policy. But budget hands are tied. It's not causing splits in the party. So yeah, no, I'm not going to go into it today. I'd like to, but maybe one day. Not yet. Oh, hello from Thailand. Hello to you. So easily one of the biggest points, I think coming up is going to be just how governable I think the Tory party is. We'll go back to this because we're getting off topic now. Um, it is all this stuff that they've got to do, all these potential spending cuts are going to cause a lot of pain. They're going to cause a lot of pain. And when it does, you haven't, well, Rishi Sunak can't, pick up the phone and call Williamson and go, can you go round to, see so and so in their office and, get them on side again? He's lost his bagman effectively. He's lost his bagman and he can't do it anymore. So he's really going to be hard on this, and I think he's going to lose a lot of Tories. I think he's certainly going to lose a lot of red wall Tories because I tell you now, as I keep on saying it, these policies that he's going to have to turn to, more austerity, more cuts. How is that? How is that going to go down in the red wall? Not well. Not well at all. This could mean a general election sooner rather than later. I think so. I would. I thought, but well, depending on how well this budget goes, depending on how well this budget can get across the line, I think depends on how soon we're going to get a general election. If there is a significant enough rebellion from the Tories over the current budget, if there is, I think he'll go for a general election, and I think we could be seeing one before the end of the year. That's for certain, but it's got to be predicated on the fact that the Tories are just so ungovernable that the only way he can regain control is by going for a general election. And the thing is, he can't threaten it. He can't just go, if you don't, he can't go to the naughty children and go, if you don't behave, I'm going to call a general election. Because no one will believe him. He cannot go, I'm going to call a general election if you don't behave again. See if I don't this time. That threat will not run because a lot of Tories will just turn around and just go, okay, general election time. So it's not a threat. It's not a threat that he can really lean on to try and control the Tory party. He will fail hard if he tries to pull that line. He will fail hard. But I wouldn't be surprised if we have not had an election by this time next year. I still think we will have an election by this time next year. I really think we will. I think it's going to go hard. I think it's going to go really hard. I think the Tory party, Sunak, something's going to happen which is just going to, cause them all to go. So I said it before at the beginning. Sunak's government is a house of cards built on quicksand on an earthquake fault line. It could go very, very quickly. Army of Lime, typical Yorkie drinking the blood of his enemies. Yeah. I think it's going to go really hard. That's what he said. The thing is, the Tories are going to lose the next general election. That's a guarantee, I think, at this point. The question is just how hard do they lose? Because you look at the red wall. In fact, do we actually? Let's get up. Hang on. Oh. Oh, this might be it. So this is one that I've found. But there's a couple, so do bear in mind that there are other um there are other predictions out there. So this is, you can see, it's come from electoral calculus, and this is I think in November. So this is November of 2022. So this is pretty recent. This is the general election prediction of what would happen if there was a general election tomorrow. So in 2019, the Tories got 44.7% of the vote, translating into 365 seats. The current predicted vote, with the polling, gives them only 26.5%, predicting them only 103 seats. A 103 seats. That is a complete wipeout. That is a complete wipeout. If there was an election tomorrow, that's a wipeout. Labour gained 33% of the vote in 2019, which translates into 203 seats. The current vote predicted for them is 48.5%. That's more than the current predicted than the Tories won in 2019 with their vote, and that would give them 455 seats. That would be an overwhelming majority. Now, I think it comes down to, what does Starmer do with that majority? And I think this is where we have to be really brave and really start pushing for some good policies. I would love for them to go the PR route. Let's change the voting system. Let's reform how the House of Lords is run. Let's change it into, rather than a House of Lords, a House of Regional Representatives that, fulfills the same role as the House of Lords, but it's actually elected. That would make a massive change in British politics. I would hope that would happen. I really would hope that would happen. So this is one of the big things that people are certainly worrying about: fiscal discipline. Because we talked about this again recently, that voters understand that because there is going to be a recession, they are very much accepting of a very lean fiscal policy. But we don't have to resort to austerity, and Labour doesn't have to resort to austerity either. They can choose a completely different road, one that, if the Conservatives had gone down back in 2010, we might not be in this situation. Because remember, austerity is always a political choice. Like it or not, austerity is a political choice. But it was one that the Conservatives made. So I'm really hoping that there is really going to be certainly a bigger rethink about this. A really big rethink of what we can actually do at this time and not have to resort to austerity. I think that would be a monumental change. That would be a massive monumental change if we can do that and achieve that. So I'm just think now. I don't think there's any other. So there's that one from actual calculus. There's YouGov. See if they've got one. Voting intention. So we've had this one, which again, this is from YouGov. So which again shows you the voting intention very strongly there. Which again coming out in favour of Labour. 50% that were polled in this said Labour. 24 for Conservative. It's going to change. It really is. And I think if Labour do get a strong presence in and they get a majority, Labour will have a lot of power. And it will be the first time that we actually get a left-wing government. And before anyone says, Labour aren't left-wing, yes, they are. Labour aren't left-wing. We have a left-wing government. We can actually really get some stuff done. And there's going to be a lot of people who are disappointed because, yeah, we won't get maybe like a full socialist policy. But you know what? You'll get far more stuff you want than if there was a Tory government in charge. Like it or not, that is the case. That is the face that the choice people are put with. And I've made this case before. I think there should have been a general election. I think after Rishi Sunak came in, he should have called a general election. Purely for the fact, I think it is fair on the people of the UK to decide what happens. Do we go down this path of austerity, one which the Tories are wanting to sell? You've seen the rhetoric step up in the past couple of weeks that I've talked about before, about saying, oh, times are hard, we've got to tighten our belts. So that's gone up. Or do we go down an alternative path? And there's plenty of economists out there that have said, look, there are good, reasonable, financially fiscal sound alternatives to going down austerity. And that is the route that Labour do seem we're going to go down. And like I say, I'm looking forward to when we see the Labour manifesto, because you can bet your boots we will be doing a live stream when the Labour manifesto comes out. We'll be doing a manifesto. We'll be going over it from cover to cover. So at this point, yeah, you are right, Colin Thompson. Yeah, Starmer will have to rebuild the economy, the NHS, and everything. But that offers Labour huge chances, really big chances to really make some changes in this country. And I think with a massive majority, Starmer it must be brave. He should not be timid about making big changes with his big majority. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I wouldn't be surprised. But like I said, I've said before, if I was Scottish, I wouldn't. I mean, God, do we go into the discussion about how if when Scottish independence happened that the SNP implode? Do we want to have that conversation? Do we want to have that conversation about how many people in the SNP are conservative, and that many of the funders of the conservative of the former conservative Scottish Conservative Party are funding the SNP? Do you want to have that conversation? Do you want to be terrified by the fact that when you look at voting intentions for policies, um, a lot of Scottish people are quite conservative when it comes down to it? We can have that conversation if you want. That'll be fun. Telling Labour to go PR after winning election is like telling a gambler to stop playing after he won. I think he could. I think he should go for PR. I think if we win big, there are big chances. There are massive chances that the left in Labour can do and push for. And here's the thing: if the left in Labour, from the socialists to the Corbynites, are willing to come together with the centrists, the left centrists, and the centrists in Labour, and are willing to compromise, they can pass really good proposals. They can get good bills done that will make a huge difference to people's lives in the UK. I really do think they will. And again, you are right on that. With a bigger majority, there is less incentive to bring in electoral reform. You are right. But there's even more incentive to really change the system. This is one of the things that the PR campaigners, I wish, would really look at. That, let's say, as you said, there's okay, let's say Labour wins that massive majority. They win that what was it, the 455 seat majority, and Conservatives only win like was it 100 104 105. So what happens? I think what the PR campaigners should focus on is, okay, if you're not going to change Westminster voting intentions for the House of Commons, let's have a look and vote for changes to the House of Lords. Let's reform the House of Lords. Let's turn that into a PR elected system. I really wish the PR campaigners would focus on that. I really wish they would. It would be really good if they could do that and change that. That would be fantastic if they could push that through. But it's a massive change of tact, though. I will admit it's a big change of tact going from let's reform, and bear in mind they don't have to drop trying to reform the Westminster voting system. They don't have to drop that at all. They just go, okay, we're going to sort of change our focus. That's still going to be on the menu of what we want to change, but we want House of Lords reform. I think that would do very well. And I've got to watch. And I really, really hope we get a good Labour manifesto. I am, I am not a a God fearing person or a believer in God, but if there is some type of God somewhere, if there is some type of God somewhere, um, please deliver unto us a good Labour manifesto. Chris Fisher. I have I have friends in Aberdeen. I have friends in Scotland. I am trust me. I know Scottish politics. I even have a friend who is the treasurer of the Tory party in Aberdeen for his many sins. And he's a good bloke, but that's his that's what he does. So I get a lot of the views over there. So yeah. I agree, Chris. You're getting rather cross at my narrative. Well, send me stuff then. I'm not averse. If you want to send me stuff, like I say, well, I was going to say Twitter, but Twitter's slowly dying, but I'm still on there. If you want to send me stuff, send it to me on Twitter. I'll cover it. I don't mind. I'll cover it. I'll look into it. I'll read about it. It's an Englishman's view. That's why your views are screwed. Well, who's done more damage to Scotland? The SNP or the Tories? It's the Tories. you know. I'm not angry. I'm just trying to rebut what you're saying because I don't agree. That's fine. I don't mind. I hear Mastodon is the new Twitter. This is what a lot of people have said recently. Again, I've said before, I work in marketing, and I've had a lot of conversations this past week or so about Twitter. Yeah, and I think Twitter's going to fall. I think Twitter's going to fall hard in a couple of weeks. What was it? Did you see the what was it? The post? The N word had increased in use by like 500%. And I really don't have to explain what the N word is. I presume you all know what that is. But yeah, 500% since Elon Musk took over. Yeah. Yeah. Twitter, you are watching the death of the platform. You are watching the death of the platform, unfortunately, which is sad. Oh, Ruth, if you knew Scottish politics, you wouldn't be spouting the nonsense that you've been spouting tonight. Well, if you're free next week and you want to come on and you want to educate me, I've got no problem if you want to come on. Just like I say, drop me a message on Twitter. Let me know what you want to talk about, what topics you want to go over. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. I don't mind. I think it'd be good to have that conversation. Um, let's have it. I'm not fine. I'm fine with it. Yeah, Musk. Yeah, that was the insane thing I saw as well. Yeah, Musk. I don't want Twitter to be political anymore, as it's become. Oh, by the way, everyone, I'm the new owner of Twitter. Vote Republican. Scottish politics. Time to bring Loner Box into the fold of the YouTube leftist industrial complex. So yeah, it's one of those crazy things. It's insane the way it's gone. It really is. But one of the last things I want to cover tonight is, again, like I said, we've been covering and keeping an eye on what's going on in Northern Ireland. And there has been updates for this. This has just come in literally today, a couple of hours ago. Northern Ireland elections may be delayed until April to facilitate Brexit talks. Because if you haven't seen or heard, Mad B, first timer, welcome. Like I say, welcome, good evening, come on in. If you haven't seen or heard, the actual negotiations around the Northern Ireland Protocol are going well. Shockingly, for the first time, going back since 2016, this is actually going well. Wait, that's breaking news, not the journalist who was arrested for covering a protest. Yeah, that happened today as well, unfortunately. That sucks. But yeah, I think the reasons behind it were a bit dumb, but that's off topic. But not what I want to talk about. I agree with you. That sucks. But oh yeah, by the way, once again, you won't see the free speech people in the UK talking about that. Not no surprise there. But anyway, yeah, I think, to be honest, as much as you are right, it's a disgrace. This is far more important because this is going to have far bigger implications on this. So the talks around the Northern Ireland Protocol are going well, partly because Rishi Sunak seems to have been taking a lot softer stance than his predecessors. Obviously, you had Boris Johnson, who didn't care, followed by Liz Truss, who really wanted to essentially wanted to go full bore and just rip up the Northern Ireland Protocol completely. And of course, down that way lies insanity, straight up insanity, essentially, in that case. So, into what's been said here. So, the elections for Northern Ireland Stormont Assembly could be delayed until April to give talks between the UK and the EU on the controversial Brexit trade agreements a chance, the government has announced. Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton Harris would say that the introduced legislation to delay the date continues to call an election by 6 weeks and a further 6 weeks delay if needed. He was legally bound to have called an election on the 28th of October, but under the new law, he can actually delay to trigger the date until the 19th of January, meaning the latest an election can happen is the 13th of April. And by the way, even then, I think there's a lot of sense by a lot of conservatives. There's a lot of sense by a lot of conservatives that somehow, if they succeed with these talks and these negotiations, that's going to be the big winner. That you're somehow going to appease the DUP. You are not going to appease the DUP. The DUP have said very, very clearly, we do not want a border in the Irish Sea. Doesn't matter if it's, a red lane and a blue lane. We don't want a border there, full stop. They've made that abundantly clear. And unfortunately, because they were egged on by the Brexiteers, by the ERG, during the whole, Theresa May, Northern Ireland backstop scenario, this is the hard Brexit that they apparently wanted and then don't want anymore. But they are using those exact same tactics that the ERG taught them. And if the Conservatives seriously think that Northern Ireland not going to be a problem, this will infuriate people because I've got to watch this. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, where is it? So I'm just looking for Kate Hoey's speech she had in the House of Lords recently. It was absolutely infuriating. I can't seem to find it at the moment, which is annoying. You can never find anything when you want to find anything, but oh well, never mind. Seriously, if you watch it, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But anyway, back to this. So it comes as the EU is finally given access by the HMRC to live data recording exact cargo destinations entering Northern Ireland from Great Britain. Data which could be provided the case for eliminating nearly all the controversial checks on goods crossing the Irish Sea. Bear in mind, the government has been stopping HMRC from sharing that data with the EU. This data was meant to be shared, I think, 4 years ago. They were meant to be sharing this data. And yet they haven't. And Mad B, yeah, that I'd be in favor of that. I think if you legalize cannabis, and I think if you regulate it like alcohol, I think you can make a lot of money for the UK economy. Because I've seen in other I think in sort of states in America where they've legalized it, they've had a massive increase to like the state income. Canada, I'm not 100% sure. I think they've had a bump in GDP income as well because they legalized stuff over it. I think it would be a good policy. The only problem is there's a lot of really squeamish MPs whenever that starts. Whenever that conversation comes up or starts, there's a lot of really squeamish MPs that don't want to have that conversation, which is really, really annoying. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, back to this. Hilton Harris told the Commons in a statement that he would be tabling an emergency law to facilitate the Brexit talks for up to 3 months. He would also say he would be looking at reducing pay appropriately of the members of the Legislative Assembly. Fantastic. Because this is one of the big things that the DUP have been getting away with, that they've been still taking pay, but the other parties haven't. And I think, once again, it just goes to show you the DUP, they aren't playing nice. They aren't playing hardball here. And they are taking massive advantage of it. So I'm really glad that that's actually made it into it, because that might actually force the DUP into going back into Stormont with a bit of luck. But, well, we'll see. I am not confident. I think even after these talks, they're still not going to go back into it. But we'll see. Where were we? So members pay for the Legislative Assembly. He also said, I will be introducing legislative legislation to provide a short, straightforward expulsion the period for the executive formation, extending the current 6 weeks to December the 8th, and to potentially of a further 6-week extension to January the 19th, if necessary. It aims to create the time and space needed for talks between the UK and the UK government for the EU Commission to help develop, and for the Northern Ireland parties to work together to resolve the dissolved institutions as soon as possible. He raised concerns about the £660 million black hole in public finances in Northern Ireland and the health service, and the waiting lists of 187,000 people waiting for more than a year in outpatient services. Again, I've said it before, it is not fair on the people of Northern Ireland for the DUP to essentially hold their government hostage. It is not fair on the people of Northern Ireland, especially when you got the situation in and around, the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis. Really not fair. Really not fair for this. So Ireland's foreign minister Simon Coveney welcomed the delay and called on the UK to use the time to engage positively and with real urgency in the knowledge that the EU had listened carefully to the concerns of unionists over the protocol. Talks between the Foreign Secretary James Cleverly and the European Commissioner Vice President Markus Solvak have been ongoing since September, but sources say they are not yet at the tunnel stage where creative solutions can be teased out to the view of a settlement. But I have to say, we are further along in discussions than we have been since this whole thing started. Since Boris Johnson brought in this absolute ridiculous of a deal, we are closer now to actually having a proper solution than any time before. So the access to the HMRC data could provide a breakthrough on this issue of the physical checks on agri-food and other goods, not going on the issue of the role of the European Court of Justice. It is understood that Brussels, which has been seeking access since Brexit happened, as we've said before, the British government has just been refusing to hand over this data, which has caused a lot of these problems. But then again, this was intentionally manufactured by the Brexiteers for that exact reason, because they wanted to frustrate the entire process and say, oh, look, the Northern Ireland protocol's failed. Guess we have to get rid of it now. So it had been previously offered the data, but with a 40-minute time lag, even though the time for goods to cross the border into the Republic of Ireland and the single market. Earlier this week, Solvak told a group of at least 70 cross-party MPs and peers at the Special Brexit Convention in Westminster that both our representative positions are not worlds apart. He said that the UK was looking for the check-free green lanes for goods remaining in Northern Ireland, and the EU had offered the express lanes. The issue boils down to whether there are no checks or minimum checks, he said, but adding that he believed that checks could be reduced on at least 1 or 2 lorries a day. So, as we've been saying all the time, we've said this all the time, there is a deal to be done. Now, you're not going to get rid of all the checks. Unless we're back in like the single market customs union, you cannot get rid of all these checks. It's impossible. But the big problem has been the Brexiteers, because it has been the Brexiteers that have not wanted to do a deal, that have not wanted to sit down and negotiate, because, as we've said, it looks like that any form of negotiation is somehow will be seen as capitulation. But there has been a softening on this. And whether it is because the Brexiteers have lost power, partly because of, well, they were part of Liz Truss's very much doomed attempt at her premiership. So that could be a big reason. So that could be a big thing. Oh, David, hello to you. Yep. True on that, Vert Crew, yeah. The only thing the UK can do is implement the existing agreement. There'll be no cherry picking, exactly. Yeah, there is no cherry picking. We've made that clear before. Yeah. Never give up, never surrender. Yeah, very, very true on that. Oh, Oscar H, good evening to you. Didn't see you sneak in there. But yes, good evening to everyone who might be joining us. I haven't said hello to. Good evening. Like I say, we're covering the current situation in Northern Ireland at the moment because there seems to be a bit of a breakthrough, at least. And it seems to be because the UK government has softened its view to Brexit. Imagine that. Who would thought? Who would thought that the UK government would suddenly start working with the EU? Imagine that. But it is obviously good. But eventually the day, a lot of these problems is how the DUP refers to them. And at the moment, the DUP are like, sorry, no border in the Irish Sea. So even if these talks do succeed, and it makes, big progress in the Northern Ireland Protocol and how that goes, I am very skeptical that the DUP are going to go back into Stormont. I am very skeptical. Because they have been abundantly clear that they do not want a border in the Irish Sea. As long as that exists, I can't see them going back into Stormont. But I am at least a bit happy that these, that these have been advancing and moving forward. So I am at least happy about that. Anyway, back to where we were. The offered express lanes, due to 1-2 lobbies. Slovak was speaking at the second meeting of the EU-UK Parliamentary Partnership Assembly, an institute set up under the Brexit trade deal. It is understood that both sides are making headway on biosecurity protections and discussing centering on the potential emerging brake mechanism, which would allow for the temporary suspension of a particular good, such as fruit or poultry, in the event of a disease outbreak. Hilton and Harris also faced questions on the strength of relations with the Republic of Ireland, which had been undermined by the row over the protocol. Early in the Commons, the governments faced calls by the DUP MP Sammy Wilson to remove the protocol altogether because of the second major issue for unionists, the requirements to observe EU law on trade and the role of the European Court of Justice in the event of a dispute. The Northern Ireland minister said he believed that there was a negotiated outcome that would work for all sides. Hilton Harris tried to later reassure the other DUP MPs, saying, "There are potential propositions that I completely understand that have been articulated by the unionist community and online with its reference to the issues with the protocol and to fix those." So, first thing, observe EU law on trade. That's not going to happen. Remember, Northern Ireland's in the Single Market Customs Union. It has to follow EU law. And by the way, as a result, as we've said multiple times before, you take all the regions, apart from London, the best performing region economically is Northern Ireland. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why Northern Ireland is the most economically performing region. Who knew? Who could think? Who could think of such a thing happening? But the second one, the role of the European Court of Justice in the event of a dispute. I can maybe see, maybe in some disputes, maybe the EU just saying, yeah, let the UK have that, maybe. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I can't really foresee it happening. I see that as very much of a red line because I think even the Ireland certainly definitely wants the European Court of Justice involved. That has been very much what they've been made clear throughout the whole Brexit process, that they've wanted the ECJ involved in ruling on disputes. So it'll be interesting. Be interesting to see which way that goes, how it happens, but we'll see. We'll see on that. But this is unfortunately something I'm going to have to wait for. Hopefully, these talks do continue in a productive manner. Like I say, we haven't gotten this far since, well, since the days probably of Theresa May. that's how far we've been going back. So yeah, definitely getting very interesting at the moment in this area. The Brexiteers are going to be quite angry. That's for sure. That's almost certainly for sure. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the Brexiteers do. I think that's the key move. We have to keep an eye on what the Brexiteers do in Westminster, and then we also have to keep an eye on what the DUP are going to do. But once again, DUP have made it very clear. So I think if you can solve the Northern Ireland Protocol to a point where you can get most unionists to not care, then at that point, if the majority of their base starts going, no, you should go back into Stormont, you should go back into power sharing, that might force them back into it. But it's what happens in these negotiations. It's definitely something we're going to have to watch over the next couple of days because, even as the Belfast Telegraph, I think, reported, potential terrorist attacks stopped at the last moment. So, yeah, a lot worrying. Really worrying. Oh, yeah. COVID on the rise. Yep. Yeah, that's going to be interesting this winter to see how much of a swing we get back for COVID. That could be a big problem. But depressingly enough as well, I read an article today about bird flu potentially becoming a problem. Oh, well, the scientists said it's not a problem yet, but we're only one mutation away from it becoming a problem. So, yeah, that's really going to be the problem. I think ultimately. So bird flu could be a problem. I hope it's not. I hope it's not, because no one wants to go through another 2020 again. No one wants another 2020. Yeah, all people are going to do is wear a mask. Yeah, very true. That's one thing I wished. That is the one thing I wished people would have continued within 2020. I wish people would have continued to wear a mask, because back in the day, I went down to London quite a bit, and I always remember, one of my colleagues saying, whenever you go down to London, as soon as you get into work, off the tube, wash your hands. As soon as you get back home, wash your hands. If you go to eat somewhere, wash your hands. That is a massive thing, and I think is the other big positive I think should be really focusing on, especially the government and especially businesses, how much wearing a mask reduced flu for the past couple of years. Like, I am shocked that the NHS hasn't gone on a campaign for people saying, if you've got like a cough or a cold, wear a mask. If you're going to work, you've got a cough or cold, in comes the HR person and goes, wear a mask. I am really surprised mask wearing hasn't caught on more. I am really surprised it hasn't caught more on. Yeah. See a guy coughing, sneezing, hit him with the trank gun. Yeah, that's true for everywhere. Wash your hands. Yeah. But you'd be surprised by the number of people that don't actually wash their hands enough. It's insane. Yeah, and you're all right. There's a couple of people in chat saying they still wear a mask. I think going into the winter, given the COVID stuff, I think when I go on the train, I'm off to Manchester in a couple of weeks, for our national conference, and I'm going to be wearing a mask on the train, I think, because I've felt the past couple of times I've been on a train, not that I've felt nervous or anything like that, but I've sort of gone. I feel like I should be wearing a mask because I've seen like maybe like one or two people, and I've seen them wear a mask, and then it's made me go, oh, I should probably be wearing a mask as well. And even though I'm not, um, it's not, not that I've had a cough or anything like that, but I've just felt that I should just maybe wear a mask. Just maybe during the winter, I think, especially if I'm on public transport, just wearing a mask, just for not for COVID reasons, but for flu reasons as well. Um, I generally still think I might start doing that. I think now, in the winter as well. Of course, yeah, pretty bad. Boost your immune system, vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. Patrick, you still have to wear a mask on all public transport. See, if you've been to Japan, well, not just in Japan, but Asia, that's a real big thing. Wearing a mask, like if you are um, sick in any way whatsoever, they put a mask on, and I think it's part of that more. Um, especially in Japan, they have that sort of really big, societal, for the societal good. And I think it's sort of very much the same. It's same in sort of the rest of like sort of other countries, sort of in and around there. But I wish that sort of really caught on more in the UK because I'd really like to see that more. Yeah, public transport and hospitals. I think it's still is it. Do you have to wear a mask in hospitals still in the UK? I don't know. I think you might do actually. Yeah. Um. Yeah. This was put out by the NHS very recently. As of the second, sorry, no, the 23rd of September, 2022, all patients, staff, and visitors must wear a mask in all adult, inpatient, and outpatient areas, as well as children's and maternity areas from today. So, yeah, we are masking up in hospitals still. Not in a doctor's surgery. Again, I think you should have to wear that in a doctor's surgery. I think that would be. I think that would be good, but no, it just refers to hospitals from what I've seen there. That little announcement. Um, but yeah, that's sort of all I wanted to really cover today. Sort of covered everything I wanted to cover. Um, yeah, thank you everyone for joining me. It's been fantastic as always. So yeah, as always, guys, thanks very much for joining me this evening. It's been absolutely fantastic. Like I say, hit the like, share button, leave a comment down below. Helps with all algorithmical stuff and stuff. So yeah, hit those. Links down below, Patreon page, whatever. You know the deal by now. YouTube thank you button, buy me a coffee, etc., etc. You know the drill. We'll see you on Saturday for the Good Morning Walk. That'll be fun. As always, well, hopefully, because I haven't been able to go down for the past couple of days because it got flooded. So hopefully, maybe the waters will have gone down a bit by then. Hopefully. Hopefully. But as always, like I say, we'll be obviously talking about all the, our usual wonderful stuff that we talk about on the Good Morning Walk. And yeah, we've got more videos coming out this week. So yeah, we'll as always, have fun, stay safe. And yeah, we'll see you all next week for some more good morning walk stuff, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Well, Wednesday after for a another Wednesday live. So as always, thank you very much for joining me, as always, for the live stream. Always been fantastic, as always, having you all in chat. So good evening and enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you all